What's your T-spine connect to?
Your pelvis.
And
Oh, your thoracic spine's connected to
what's your
your lumbar
scapula,
spine,
right? Like think rib cage.
your ribs.
So if your T-spine is stiff, like it's not mobile, that also means that your rib cage is stiff and not mobile. You can't have like you can fake it, you could get the rotation from the segments above and below the T-spine, but if you
Yeah.
want true thoracic rotation, the rib cage has to move and it has to move in opposition. So like if you want to get thoracic rotation to the left, you're going to have external rotation on the right or on the left side of your rib cage, and then you're going to have compression or internal rotation on the right side. Like that's what drives the turn. So if you're not unable to turn, like you have to get those segments to move in opposite. You know what I mean by like opposition? Like one
Yeah.
segment moves one way, the other segment goes the opposite
Yeah.
way. Richie, this is Luke. This is one of my boys from Cressy. Luke, you want to just give us a little bit about your backstory and what you've been up to the last couple years? Or just like I mean, you haven't been throwing. So Richie hasn't been throwing for. It's been like 2 years now, right? You haven't been throwing.
Yeah. It's been, yeah,
Um,
2 years, no baseball throwing.
but talk about just kind of like what was going on because you were making some progress in the right direction, right? Like you were up to 89, and then you had to
Well, I
shut it
was up
down
to
because of the
89.
lat thing.
Well, I was up to 89 there
Well, you were
before
up
I
to
left
91 in
Cressy's,
high
but
school though, right? Like you have been up to 91.
I got back up to 91 like 7 when I left Cressy's right before I got injured.
So yeah, I mean, I guess talk a little bit about the backstory and like what even brought you out to
Okay.
Cressy because you've been trying to make a
Yeah.
college team for a little while now, right? Like you were on a college
Yeah.
team and
So,
then COVID happened and
yeah, initially when COVID hit, while I was playing, I got an opportunity to play at a high school, and I went to play, and I ended up transferring actually at the semester, and then COVID came about, and I thought that I was gonna figure out in between like COVID hitting and then going back to school in the fall. I thought I was gonna figure out basically how to throw 90 miles an hour in that time frame, which had been trying to get back to. When that didn't work out, I guess I just decided to hang it up. I started just working, and like me and my girlfriend at the time was living together, and I was just like, yeah, this is what people do, after college and whatnot. But I just like ended up hating my life. Like I got to this point where I just had like no aspirations, like no goals, no uh I just didn't have I wasn't like pursuing anything, and so my life was just like I was just like in a really miserable spot. I was at the point where I was, you know, basically about to kill myself. I had to go to the hospital for a couple weeks, and I was on a suicide watch for just a couple of weeks, and trying to like get my head right. I just didn't want to be here. Then that's when I my dad and I had a talk, and he was like, "Well, you got to find something to do." He's like, "You got to do something." He's like, "I don't really care what it is. You just got to do something." And so that's when I started baseball. Kind of came back in the picture because that was really the only thing I wanted to do at the time. In my head, I didn't have anything else going for me, and like I didn't really have anything to lose by trying to go back to play. I was like 20, so it was like still really realistic at the time to just go back and play. But then, I started training that year, and then I get out to Cressy's because where I was training at, they weren't teaching me how to throw. I was just getting worse actually. Like they weren't really giving me time of day. So I that's when I went out to Cressy's and started working with this guy. And this guy basically, yeah, he trained me, he educated me, and taught me how to throw.
you're talking
Uh,
about Jordan, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Jordan Kraus.
Yeah, he's with the Mets
Yeah,
now.
dude. Yeah, shout out to Jordan, man.
He's a
That
good
guy's a
dude.
stud. He's only like, yeah, he is. He's real smart. He's young, knows a lot. I mean, he was able to take somebody like me. I mean, if I had a fully healthy shoulder at the time, I think I would have been a machine. I mean, I was still generate pretty decent velocity with I had like 3 muscle knots in my shoulder blade from just years of bad mechanics. And when I started throwing hard, that was when the knots basically started. They started giving me some problems, and then they ended up releasing and I'd been kind of going to therapy a little bit, like I'd had it addressed very minimally, and they couldn't work out the knots like with their hands and whatnot. So it was like the only way that those was gonna release was by me throwing harder. But when they released, I lost like motor function in my shoulder blade, like my trap, like my mid and low trap, they weren't like firing. My serratus anterior wasn't firing.
Didn't they say you had
Um,
like winging or something? They said you had scapular winging or dyskinesis or something
no, I
like
didn't
that.
have any winging. I had scapular. They dubbed it scapular dyskinesis. I didn't have any winging though. But
They said
it
you had
was
like
it.
low trap weakness or something, right? You need to work on your
Yeah, like
serratus.
my middle trap all the way down to my lower trap, it was like atrophied. Like it what they is like I had those knots there for so long that my muscles just stop, like they don't even know how to fire on their own. So I had to do all this strengthening because like if I do like a row, I'd only get activation in my pec. I didn't
When
have
you're doing
like
rows,
my
you
shoulder
feel
like
it
my
in your pec.
2 years ago when I got injured. But that was like I think part of the strength deficit because now I've essentially restored the strength after 2 years. I mean, I'm sure I restored it a little bit sooner, but my right shoulder's stronger than my left shoulder now. Like everything feels like it's activating. It just not taking the proper, like my scapula's not taking the proper pattern that it should be.
It's not moving
Like when
on
I
the rib
move it,
cage very well.
yeah, it's like when I go to raise my shoulders up, my scapula wants to depress before it starts rotating around. So it depresses as I move my arm up and then starts moving around my rib cage. So then it starts moving around my rib cage at this depressed state. It's not like staying in place how it should. It like depresses down as I move my arms up.
So you
And
got
so
to do a
like
ton more muscle activity to get your arm overhead. Like if the shoulder blade's not moving, then the muscles are gonna have to work way harder. And if you're talking about your shoulder blade being depressed, then something's not allowing for like that upward rotation. So you think about like balance between muscle groups or whatever, or like the tension has to give way for that movement to happen. It has to be coordinated in terms of
for sure.
the push and the pull or whatever you want to think of it as. But that's where I
Yeah.
was kind of wondering if,
Well,
well, I think
it's
we kind
not
of came to that conclusion. It's
depressed.
like it's not a strength issue anymore. They kind of
Yeah,
made it
yeah.
sound like, right?
Yeah,
Like they
cool. Because
said that
it's
it was
not, like,
strong now,
depressed there.
right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I feel like the strength isn't an issue either, like, because it's it's depressing as I move, like, it's not just in a depressed state, like, as I'm just standing there. It's like, once I start raising my arm, like, immediately it'll, like, shoot down and then rotate around. It's moving with my arm is the thing. Like over the last 2 years, that was what wasn't happening. Like my scapula wasn't moving in a coordinated fashion with my arm. Like sure, it's not taking the proper pattern as it moves, but like it wasn't even on time with my arm. So like everything was like delayed initially when I had the strength deficit. So like for example, I'd start raising my arm and my scapula would hesitate and then it would all of a sudden drop and then it would all of a sudden rotate around my rib cage. There was no like fluid movement, like it wasn't coordinated. Like as I started moving my arm up, then it starts moving. Just had no coordination. So it was like as I gained strength, I started gaining that coordination back, but it never restored the pattern that it was taking. It only fixed like the strength. I haven't thrown a baseball, but I've done I do a lot of dry reps, which I started doing when I was healthy throwing, and it's the same. Like for me, I mean, I've got it down. I had it got it down to where like doing the dry rep felt no different than throwing with the baseball minus the weight of the baseball. So like I still move efficiently and I can still move and see what my shoulder's doing as I'm throwing, like, but without a baseball. It doesn't look that great though with my hip mobility, be it like with my pelvic tilt being as bad as it is. And then also like since my right shoulder blade is not taking an efficient pattern across my rib cage, it's causing my elbow to like shoot up. So as I get into that point in the foot strike when your arm's just right behind your head before it started unloading everything, like when I get to that point, foot strike, arm by my head, my elbows like dipped a little bit, and then it gives off the impression that I'm like tilted, like my shoulders are tilted down. So my left shoulder would be tilted up and my right shoulder would be tilted down. But then when I start getting into layback and start unloading everything, it's like my elbow goes up and then releases the ball. So it goes up, and as it's going up, it's going into layback, and then it releases the ball. It's like high. It doesn't look natural. It looks like everything's being released high. And I don't throw with any tension in my arms. So like that's how I know this is like a natural thing that's happening. Because I don't have
The train's following the track.
yeah,
That's
so
that's
that's
what
how I
I think
know like
about when I'm
it's
hearing that change in your elbow. It's like, all right, it's just trying to find the position that it can rotate from.
yeah, that's a perfect analogy for it too, for sure.
The space, right?
That's
Like
exactly what's going on.
that's the space that you have to turn from.
You're good. It's like now it's on the tracks, but it's like the train is leaning left and right as it goes around. If that makes sense. It's not like a stable. It's not like it's all stable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I've got the strength to hold the train down. It just don't have the motor capacity to make it.
It's not moving in the right direction, kind of.
You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, yeah. I'm having trouble putting the rest of that analogy together, but you know what I'm saying. It's like the strength. Yeah, it's at this point, because for a while the strength was the problem. So that was all I addressed. That was the only thing that the doctors told me to address, and even then they were still scratching their heads. Like every time I've been out to Cincinnati to work with the Reds, they have scratched their heads. Literally had multiple doctors aside from their head like team surgeon. Like they no none of them have really truly been able to. I've gotten more help from the team chiropractor than I have the actual like surgeons and stuff, like the actual team doctors and the physical therapists. That they all want to keep addressing strength, and or they're trying to address like small things which should be addressed, but like it's not the whole picture. Like the one guy was like, oh, you need to fix your thoracic mobility and that'll fix everything. I was like, well, I'm sure that needs to be fixed, but it's like, I don't think that's the end all solution for, this
What's
curve in
connected
my
to your
spine,
T spine? What's your T spine connect to?
your pelvis,
And
oh, your thoracic spine's connected to
what's your
your lumbar
scapula?
spine,
Right? Like think rib cage.
your ribs.
So if your T spine is stiff, like it's not mobile, that also means that your rib cage is stiff and not mobile. Like you can't have true, like you could fake it, you could get the rotation from like the segments above and below the T spine, but if you
Yeah.
want true thoracic rotation, the rib cage has to move and it has to move in opposition. So like if you want to get thoracic rotation to the left, you're going to have external rotation on the right or on the left side of your rib cage, and then you're going to have compression or internal rotation on the right side. Like that's what drives the turn. So if you're not unable to turn, like you have to get those segments to move in opposition. You know what I mean by like opposition? Like one
Yeah.
segment moves one way, the other segment goes the opposite
Yeah.
way.
Well, that's why I said, like, I am sure that needs to be addressed, but I don't think it is going to be the final solution to this kinesis. And that was the problem, was that they couldn't even tell me I had anterior pelvic tilt. Like I knew that they couldn't even tell me that. I knew I had this little curvature in my spine. I don't know if it's causing me. I don't know if that's the reason why, I've got the dyskinesia. I don't know what the reason is, but I know that they're not saying a whole lot. It would be if there was only one missing piece to this, for me to fully heal, I could accept that, but it'd be hard to believe. I already know I need to fix. I know my hips aren't like causing my scapular dyskinesis, but like to even be mobile in and out of my glutes and my hamstrings while I'm moving down the mountain, like I gotta fix that too. So I don't know. I just know I probably got a few different issues. I don't know what to do about it though. I mean, all I know is I was getting to an elite level, and then all of a sudden I got hurt and I had to stop. Tired of fucking sitting here. I'm tired of being stuck here. I'm ready to go back and play because I know I'm better than like most of these guys. I just can't do it with I can't do it with this shoulder. It's just not realistic. I'll end up tearing my labrum or something.
100%.
But
Yeah. So that's a good, I guess, like 10,000-foot view of Richie. You catch all that? Just kind of like
I did.
the time frame. And
I've been
I got
sending
that.
you pictures.
So yeah, Luke, like we look at posture a lot because we're trying to understand like where you're starting from and then
yeah.
understanding like how you got to where you are in terms of like the anterior pelvic tilt and the depressed
Oh, that was
scapula.
the pelvic tilt I developed from heavy lifting with
Yeah, you went to
not
crazy, bro. You
optimal.
deadlifted.
He did. I was
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
say, tell him how much you deadlift, Luke. It's not a
Like,
strength
well,
issue.
it depends.
It's not a strength
Well, it
issue. I'm just gonna
depends.
say
I'll
that
be
right now. He's strong. He's very
it's
strong.
between 375 and 415. It just
For
depends on the
reps
day
though,
because I'm
dude, for
hitting like
like 10
four by
reps, right?
five,
I
four by
thought you said you were
five.
doing like 450 for like reps or something like that. Hey, it's a lot of weight, like a
No,
lot of trap bar
no,
deadlifting.
415 for reps.
I
450 would be
mean,
crazy, dude.
Richie, how many
450
narrow
is crazy.
ISAs that you worked with that throw 90 plus can deadlift 415 for reps? How many?
0.
0. Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
shit.
Luke, you're a narrow. Is he a narrow, Jesse?
I think so. I mean, did you see those posture photo? I don't know. I mean, I was looking at like the nose and the whatever the septum. I don't know, honestly. What do you think? I was thinking narrow.
I don't know. I think the one thing that I'm missing in the posture photos would be like shirt off, hands overhead to see which I feel like there's got to be a rib cage turn.
My scapula depress as I start rotating upward, or as I start raising my arms up. Guess your scapula can't upwardly rotate and depress at the same time.
Yeah. That would be a bend.
Impossible. It'd be impossible.
I
As I
mean,
move my arm, as
some
I
people are
rotate my
trying to
arms.
do that, probably. Yeah, you'd want to see a lot of videos
Yeah, it could
too.
be. It could be on your. It could be on your. It could be all completely on your schedule.
You send in some
Well,
videos
is there?
and we'll ask you for feedback on like how the program went to start the remote assessment. You sent in all that stuff. We write you a program, make it as like detailed instructions as we can, and then you go through on your own and take videos and ask for feedback. We'll make changes and like record exercise demos. But I
Okay,
think it is a lot of like checks and balances with videos and then like
sure.
retesting the shoulder flexion or the squat test, whatever we decides like the best KPI to track. But yeah, I would say it is
Okay.
like just a little bit of trial and error, not going down one road too far before we decide that like that's not the
Right.
right direction to go.
What do you guys think of the videos I just sent you?
I'm getting some screenshots right now. You got your notepad out, Jesse? So Luke, based on everything you kind of were saying, if we look, and I sent it to Jesse so he can send it to you. If we look at your upper half posture from the side, and if you
Yeah.
look at if you look back at your video of you doing that overhead, arms overhead, do you see how much your neck has to excursion forward to allow you to try to get your arms overhead? Like that's the first thing I saw is you go to reach arms overhead and your neck has to
Oh
drive way
yeah.
forward,
Yes.
like pretty
Yes.
freaking far, right? See that?
Yeah.
And so if we put that in with the possibility that that scap can't come up at all, it has to depress to try to move, like, and then if you look at your standing posture from the side, so I did a screenshot of right shoulder facing us, like you're a pretty wide dude, but you are fucking compressed up there.
Like my shoulders round up.
So you're gonna have the same tilt at the shoulder blades you do at the pelvis. So that's one, yeah. But just literally the front to back, we should see a little more of a like a sternum up top and that would potentially so this would be like one of the KPIs that I'd look at. So as Jesse programs for you over time, we should start to see a neck easy kind of come back. Your jaw actually might look like it comes forward a little bit. Your lower mandible comes forward a little bit, but neck is able to sit over your axial skeleton a little bit more relaxed, because we just call this me and a couple of colleagues call this just the Campo Angle. So clavicle and scapula, the angle kind of that those make, there has to be some space there to allow for that upward rotation.
Okay.
And like, look at the top of your arm flexion test. So you can't even get your arm straight.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where Jesse, I would say I think he's a wide because he has no ERs. And that, to me, that rib cage with arms overhead looks like it's in a wide position. Like if he was a narrow with no pump handle and compressed like that, Jesse, I don't think we would see. You'd see even honestly probably less arm overhead, or maybe to get to this position would look a little different because he wouldn't be able to have that ISA to expand. Like his ISA is expanding a little bit to get him there, even with what I would say no pump handle. So you're like a tube of toothpaste, but instead of listening to mom and squeezing the toothpaste from the bottom, you've squeezed from the top, and now there's interference for you to get energy to the baseball. That kind of just answers that's multiple things there, because there's no ability for you to get fluid up into your upper rib cage to allow for you to have that. I like what you said about having a real like effortless arm and no tension in your arm. The only way to really get the same speed and the same velocities that you'd want to get with no tension, you got to have a pump ability for this to expand and get fluid pretty much and get energy to the arm.
Yeah, I was
And
just
that's why
about. Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good. Go.
Well, I was just about to say, when you made that comment, I can feel that loss of speed and like fluidity, even though I feel like because I don't have any tension when I'm throwing, I can like during the motion, I can like visualize where it's tight just from like motor patterns and whatnot. It doesn't feel like it's like no matter what I do, it's like my arm is just not, it's a lot quicker than it was when I got injured, but it's just not like it used to be. And I know, like, I'll feel it and I'll know when it's like it used to be. I just wanted to emphasize, like, yeah, what you just said. Yeah, I definitely am aware that, like, I can feel it, that it's like I get into this retracted phase and then my arm does not fucking shoot.
Yep.
It don't just shoot like it used to. It's
There's
like
no whip.
I can feel I can feel the tension in my spine. Like I can feel the immobility between my scapula and my spine as my arms coming forward. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it is definitely it's definitely
how tight would you say your bicep? Like if you were gonna like palpate front of bicep head, is that like pretty tight or not too bad?
up here.
Right in front and not even down into your bicep. So like front delt where your bicep head is, and then down in here in your throwing arm.
I'd say this is fairly loose.
Okay, so
I
not
don't,
too
I don't
bad. So
it does
what?
feel. You talking right in between the shoulder and
No,
the
it would be more. It'd be more bicep. It's not
right
too
up
bad.
here feels a little tight, but I think that's normal from where my
Yeah,
shoulder is.
and you haven't really been throwing a ton.
I can still separate. I can still separate as much
Yeah.
as my body will allow me, but it's like way harder to separate with this pelvis shit going on. And then also like I think probably my upper half is tight too. So it just makes separating like it's way harder on my body. It takes more energy out of me. Whereas before all that, like separating into foot strike was really easy.
Yeah, Jesse. So I think he's a wide that's gone so far forward. Now he's bailing out left. I think he's going to have a left pelvis with more ER than right pelvis, just based on his foot and hip and knee positioning in the prone propulsion test. So I think KPIs are going to be that low back compression. So looking at that, getting rid of that a little bit, getting him out of he looks like a right ass squeeze guy.
Yeah, we were talking about that before you hopped on the call, actually.
So I think
you're talking about like
KPIs
lower
would be
right posterior, right? Like that would be what pushes him to the left.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was seeing too. Yeah.
I think it's like just lower posterior forward, and then
You
it's
just have to
right
bring him.
side's pushing him left.
So you have to bring him back
Yeah,
first.
he's
Bring him straight
he's so
back
wide. I
first,
think bring him
and
straight
then bring him back
and
on
then
the
I think you got
right.
to turn him. No, I think you bring him back and then you just turn him left, which
So like
bring
a
him back
right
on the
to
right
left
is gonna turn
leg
him.
drag.
Maybe.
I was thinking about just rolling.
Maybe.
him, right?
Yeah,
Like
I don't
starting
think
in
you want to put
sideline.
anything in his hands yet. I don't think you want to put anything in his hands yet, at least to start, just because of the.
Even
I
like
mean,
unloading him with a cable. That was something I was thinking of, just like a cable squat.
I guess you could try it. I just don't think the shoulder's gonna do. He's not gonna get the rate capture range of motion because of that shoulder, because that thing is not moving. I mean, look at that prone propulsion test I showed you, where he just to get his arms in the wall.
I saw
He's
that.
got to pretty much get his right shoulder out of the glenohumeral joint.
So I'm thinking a lot of like side lying, a
Um,
lot of hook lying.
yes, I think a ton of that, and then you got to start seeing that, and then you got to do something to open him up top to finish it.
What would you use prone in that position? Because you can use the ground to stop his guts from going forward. I
I
don't know.
think you do a prone cobra. I think you do a prone cobra
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, because that would get
with
him
a pin under his rib cage,
maybe like a couple.
and then push him through with some expansion. I think you got to open him up down low first, otherwise that's not going to do shit. But yeah,
You'd probably have to
I
start
mean,
in
it's bring
sideline and roll him or do like a
bring him
rib
back.
pin or something.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have crazy rib flare though, which kind of surprised me, honestly.
I
I
was
thought we
almost
were
thinking
going to see
about
like
like a mummy
crazy
roll,
rib
but
cage.
yeah, like an ISA roll,
I
but
mean,
that's
I don't.
probably less effective.
That never hurt. That never hurts a wide. I would definitely do all the rolling.
Okay. That was the first thing I thought of. Yeah, just
I
rolling him a bunch.
I think it would come down to like roll a bunch, get some lower posterior activity, chill out, and then a prone cobra, and then finish eventually with like some sort of like reverse bear crawl, getting him to get that upward rotation of the shoulder blade.
That's what I was thinking. It was like bear crawl and then even like an inchworm, but I think that's too much, right? Like he's just gonna shrug if he tries
Yeah,
to
probably. Yeah, probably.
get that shoulder flexion.
Probably. You might even play around and see how honestly some all fours variations look to try to get a pump handle. I think you can handle that a bunch with side lying though too. So right foot side lying with honestly like both arms full outstretched.
Wait, what? Right side lying with a reach?
With both arms reaching almost.
Oh,
I don't
just to
know.
bring him back.
I'll play around with some ideas. Deadlifting is gonna be interference.
No split squatting.
I don't think, yeah, with that lower posterior compression, split squatting is gonna be super difficult.
He was talking about that. Actually, Luke, you were saying how all those activities make your low back sore.
Yeah, they didn't used to. That was the thing. It was like I developed that over the last couple of years after I got injured.
Yeah, there's just a lot of compression going on.
You've done a hell of a job in the weight room, kid.
Well,
He's
appreciate
strong.
it. I mean,
He's really
doesn't
strong.
mean much right now.
I know, and I really don't say that facetiously though. Like you've done the hard work. Now it's just getting it connects. Jesse, I'd say pass on to Luke the pictures that I took screenshots of. Let his brain work with that. I think the other stuff is you could probably try to hammer some teres minor soft tissue.
Just like a lacrosse ball or something.
Yeah, and then once you start getting the pump handle and the neck to be in the right position, then I'd say then it's time to like start trying to work posteriorly orient the shoulder blade. And again, that's probably not going to happen until the pelvis gets posteriorly oriented. That should give him the space, because I think that once you get the pelvis to get out of that anterior orientation and the gait cycles improve, then we should start to see some opening on that right shoulder. And then that's when you can do like, eventually he might be like a sideline press guy. It definitely would not feel good to do it right now.
I was gonna say, yeah, shoulder's so anteriorly oriented.
No, you're right. It definitely, all that doesn't feel good right now just because of how it.
I was thinking about just like a hook lying armbar with the ball squeeze, or would you not want to do the ball squeeze in that situation? That's another thing that I go back and forth with, like ball squeeze or band around the knees.
I think you do band around the knees if he has the right foot position, because that needs to open up his posterior outlet a little bit, lower posterior outlet.
But if his sacrum's nutated, does that mean that he's like because he's butt squeezing? Does that mean that he's like bending the apex of the sacrum under? Like, isn't that what Bill Hartman talks about? Like, you get the Y that has posterior lower compression and that bends the sacrum under the pelvis. You wouldn't want to put a ball between their knees.
I try the band. That's where my brain goes with that. And then you got to be careful that, I mean, there's a pretty big twist out of that left shin.
Would you heel
I'd
ramp him
assume-
then?
Probably. If we're correct and he's a wide with limited ERs, yes.
So anything where he's holding a weight in his hand would be interference. Or could you get him asymmetrical? Because I was thinking of like some carries or something.
I don't think carries are going to do him any good to start. There's just not enough relative motion at that spine for the gait process to work. I mean, maybe if you picked really one specific one, but like I can't think one off the top of my head. And
But if you did like a belt
you put a
loaded
weight-
sled, like you put the sled on a belt.
I would do a belt loaded lateral sled drag if you can.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, like a right to left.
I think it's left to right, Jesse. I don't think it's right to left.
You're trying to pronate his left foot. If you're going left to right on a sled drag, then that could open up that right lower posterior, technically, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I do think like a goblet hold box squat wouldn't be terrible. Feel pretty good too. And if you get a good elbow reach, you can start getting some posterior tilt of the shoulder blades and a full sit with the breath.
As long as he's in a good shoulder position with the reach.
Yeah, or maybe even it's like a lighter dual kettlebell. I'd play around.
What about a
It's
Zercher?
got to be probably. I get so like to me in my brain, Zercher is gonna throw someone into an anterior tilt of the shoulder blades.
Yeah, I
mean,
can see that.
Like I just see that happen. I mean, eventually, I think that'd be a great lift for him for sure. But I wonder if you need to get him out of that lower back posterior compression first. Now the more I'm looking at, there's gonna have to be some sideline, some rolling, because I think you're gonna have a right rib cage way compressed versus the left.
What about like an oblique sit?
Kinda.
Or would that be too much ER for him? I was thinking of like a left hand down oblique sit.
I'd go both. I'd go right then left.
You go right first and then left?
Mm-hmm. Let gravity open up that right side first, right? Because you'd be getting gravity down into the lower right posterior, and you're able to get the ability to get some breathing excursions into that right.
That's what I was thinking, just trying to get
pump
those
handle.
ribs to move a little bit. But you'd probably want to start with the lower
You'd have
posterior.
to coach him different. I think you'd have to do a right rib. If you do a right oblique sit, you let his rib cage kind of sag a tiny bit down, and if you do left, you can't let that happen. Because I mean, I'm just staring at the beginning of his late propulsion test, or not late, his propulsion test, and just standing here looking and kind of like squinting and getting my eyes right. It's a right hip is spun forward, left hip's bailed open, left rib cage is more expanded in the back, right rib cage is more compressed in the back, all the way up to the shoulder. Left shoulder's a little bit higher, left foot's bailed out. That might be the best picture to look at, honestly.
The prone
Foot
propulsion.
together, arms in the wall,
Propulsion.
standing propulsion test. Just reach in there. That might be your.
That's the KPI, huh? Yeah, I see what you're talking about that left side being higher.
So Luke, think of all this bullshit mumbo jumbo we've been talking about as just timing. So all we're trying to do is manipulate time for you down the mound or throwing flat ground, wherever you're throwing, to allow you to be on time at the right time for the task that you have at hand. Is pretty much all that is doing. Is like I'm sure if you went through. Yeah, I'm sure if you went through right now and we took snapshots, because you have a pretty high level training history with some good people, if you get to certain snapshots, so let's say leg lift, and then they stop, and then you give them a screenshot at handbrake, and then you get a foot plant, and then you get a ball release. Like it would look good, but how you got to those positions, the time and the space that you use to get to those positions isn't efficient, obviously, as you've stated it earlier. Right. So that's all we're really trying to do is, and I think that's the piece that no one looks at. You can positively and negatively affect the amount of time that you have to complete a task.
Well, I've definitely negatively affected it, even more so on my own, aside from the shoulder injury in the last 2 years. Like, I think all the heavy lifting and not having super optimal mechanics 100% of the time when I've been doing those lifts have caused me more of a hole to dig out of now. Because like you're saying, I think I could honestly say, I mean, yeah, I would look good probably to a regular Joe, but like somebody, I mean, like you guys know what you're talking about. If you was to look at it right now, I'm getting into all the right positions, but like you said, not efficiently. And it really doesn't look that good because like there's so many discrepancies. Like I've got such limited mobility in my hips right now. My shoulder is not functioning properly. So like during all that, doesn't it does look different. Like it doesn't look normal. I'll just say that.
Number one thing here is I wouldn't be so fucking hard on yourself, man, because you've been busting your ass and putting a lot of hard work. Jesse and I speak contrarian, and we say things like, interference and this isn't good, blah, blah, blah. But like, one, no one else is talking about that. So you haven't had tutelage of someone telling you what might be bad. Until about 4 years ago, I thought every fucking thing in the weight room that you did is good.
Oh, really?
So I wouldn't like I just wouldn't be so damn hard on yourself, man. I think you'll get right. I think you've done I really do, because just not to make this about me, but like with a lot of my clients, a lot of my pro guys I've had for 10 years now, like I train them like fucking powerlifters for the first 5 or 6 years. And maybe that's where you should have been. Maybe you did need to develop some more physical attributes and you need to get strong. And yeah, maybe somewhere along the road, it just started getting away from really on-field success mattering, and that could be subliminal, and we didn't know that. But I mean, you can't discredit any of the work that you've done over the past however many years it's been, because you've put yourself in a position to have a damn good frame and you're strong. And now it's just, I mean, it's what we do. It's taking guys that have put in a shit ton of hard work and are frustrated because you can't figure out the on-field success to match that. And I mean, I was there too, man. Like that shit it's frustrating for sure. But not to get on my soapbox and talk to you like a kid, but like I wouldn't be careful the language you speak to yourself. Like
for sure.
Don't discredit any of the hard work you did. You put in a lot of time at Cressy. They did great stuff for you. Everywhere you've been, you've learned something. Like I've never had a conversation with a kid your age about mechanics in the body and have anyone be as self-aware as you.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
You honestly know what the fuck you're talking about. Honestly, really cool, which I think will help you. You're a guy that will get even more out of training remotely with Jesse or with myself, because you're going to be able to give us way better information than the 18-year-old kid that has never had an injury that I got to work with, that doesn't know how to fucking even take a video of an exercise he's supposed to do and send it to me. I think you're the unicorn remote client. And like I honestly don't think you're that far off, bro. I've had a group of like 5 or 6 pitchers in here with me in the gym all summer, and I could say that and they were all injured guys.
Yeah.
I would say that you're closer to being back in where you want to be than any of them. So
you don't think I'm like screwed? All right, but
no.
Yeah, because that's been the big question mark for the last 2 years, is whether or not what happened was. I keep asking the doctor, "Is my career over?" They just can't answer. Like they couldn't answer it, which made me think that it might.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough question, and obviously I don't have MRI eyes, so we can't see. But we're making these decisions, these comments based on the fact that you've seen some of the top doctors, and
I've had an MRI, and they said it was all fine, and there's no surgery.
I mean, if they were correct, then I would say, we'll probably hit some roadblocks, right? We're talking like the human body here. It's you know as well as we do. There's a lot. It's a complex fucking system. But I mean, yeah, like if it goes according to plan, I've seen plenty of guys that come in and show up the same way or worse. And they're playing some decent high level baseball somewhere. So I could tell that you're a guy that's going to put in the work. I really think from here, like Jesse's taking a bunch of good notes. I got some notes that I want to take. Yeah, I'm going to get some notes that I want to take and look back over the recording on this and let Jesse definitely take the big lead on it, but I'm going to be in his ear.
We're always talking about our clients that we need help with too. So
we nerd over this shit. Like honestly,
and then when Richie doesn't have the answer, then you know who to go to also. So it's like team effort, or just
we got some good people in our corner.
Always learning something.
Like waiting for you guys to finish the program. Like I don't know what to hit, because like the two main things I would hit throughout the week was deadlifts and split squats. And like my upper body days are pretty simple. I mean, I do a lot of like rowing, and I do a little bit of dumbbell bench press. It's pretty simple, the upper body day, but I don't know what I
Yeah.
should be doing because I'm not trying to. I mean, you guys just said don't do the split squats for right now, don't do the deadlift. So I'm not gonna, but I don't know
Yeah.
what I should be doing.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the meantime.
if Jesse doesn't have a program done for you by the time you need a lift, just reach out to us, and we have we could show you some videos. What I would do, and this is also some ideas for Jesse, is I would get you. I call them resets, just some like what your warm up would look like, what your breathing exercises might be to try to make some of the changes that we talked about. I think we have most of that already videotaped. He can shoot that to you ahead of time as he's working on your lifts.
Okay. Yeah, because I do lift,
And
or not just lift, but I train Monday through Friday. But this last week I stopped. I specifically didn't deadlift because of a comment Jesse made, and then I didn't do any running because I felt it was just gonna. I mean, it wasn't gonna make a difference. Like
yeah,
it's already borderline impossible to run. Like I have to tuck my pelvis and like run with essentially I have to clench my butt like, the whole time I'm running.
which we also don't want you to do. So that's for like I
Right.
feel like you're going to be you will be the hard case, and I don't say this in a bad way, but you're going to overthink things, which is fair.
Yeah.
Like we just
Right.
threw a bunch of information at you, so you're going to try to go in on your first lift and do everything we
Yeah.
said perfectly, and it's just not going to fucking work that way, man.
It's a
Unfortunately.
process.
I wish.
Okay.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right?
And if you have questions on that, you just reach out and be like, all right, why the fuck can I do this? And if we don't have a good enough reason, then we need to put whatever that is back in your program.
Right.
If I'm not having you deadlift just because I have an ego and I want to be stronger than you, then we got to put that shit back in there. But
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I think you'll be a guy that is going to be able to get back to deadlift pattern for sure, just based on your shape. It's just going to be, we need to get some posture KPIs to improve and some compression to end. Maybe then it's like end up wanting you to do a split squat or a split stance deadlift with right foot forward every time or something like that. And then maybe the frequency is only like once every 10 days. So like almost once every week and a half, you're going to do a deadlift day, whatever it might be. So there's ways around it.
Are the programs gonna essentially be like a workout and rehab essentially all in one? Like, will I still need to do? Is there other stuff that I need to do outside of the program? Once you guys have because like kind of at this point, like anything I do, essentially, I would rather have I'd rather have it cleared by you guys. Like, I'd rather have it basically laid out completely, like everything I can do.
The whole
Because
week.
I don't want to go in there and do something that's going to negate what you guys are doing. But I also don't want to lose a bunch of strength. I don't want to just get, I mean, I know I'll lose a little bit of strength just trying to rehab, but I don't want to be like not doing anything difficult.
Nah,
you know what I mean?
you will give you some hard workouts. I mean, think about it this way.
Okay.
For one, you can not strength train for up to 3 weeks and maintain your 1RM.
That's what I was gonna say.
So you could go 3 weeks without lifting and still be just as strong technically. Now, I like to have a pump. I like to feel way bigger than my skinny ass is. So I agree. Like, you don't work out for a couple weeks, you're not going to feel the same.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll just do arms. We'll just do sneaky arm training.
Yeah. But then to be honest too, like, what strength do you want to have? Do you want to have weight room strength? Do you want to just be on the bar, or do you want to have the strength to be able to throw? Like, I'm not
I just want to have strength to throw. Like, I only want to be strong enough. Jesse knows, like, I'm not like a super cocky person or anything, but like, I'm pretty honest with myself. Like, I know that I'll throw 100 eventually, like with a healthy arm, but I want to be able to like maintain that strength.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like my favorite pitcher is Giordano Ventura. I know he's dead, but he was a real small guy, real quick. Like, my arm's real quick like that. But he's like, you see how little he is? I don't know how he was able to do it, but I just know if I was that skinny, I probably wouldn't be able to like maintain it. Essentially be as strong as I can to throw, and that's really all I'm concerned with. And I just thought over the last few years, like what I was doing was gonna help me do that. Even though, like, Jesse and everybody told me, a couple of years ago, like, I remember one of the pro guys, remember Jesse, when I was about to lift that 315, and the pro guy, Noah, remember Noah Zavalis, and he come up and was like, yeah, and he was like, if you do this, he's like, it's not gonna make a difference when you go over there. He's like, I only touch like 225 anymore. He said, I just think the same thing. And like even hearing that, I still thought like, well, yeah, I'll still,
Even
it's
from
gonna
a
be different for
Harvard,
me.
even
And it
from a
wasn't.
Harvard guy.
Yeah, and it wasn't. So I just didn't know any better and didn't want to maybe come to terms with it.
We've all been there, man.
Well,
That was the story of my career.
it's because all the mindset does that we have now is it raises more questions. It doesn't keep it simple enough of like, oh yeah, you're not throwing 100 ass, you're not strong enough, keep working, bro. Like that's
Follow the formula.
That's simple. And unfortunately it's too simple, but that's why we gravitate towards that. Everyone does. Every single person in this industry at some point, unless they're just really out there. And then they're probably missing the boat on way many other things. They go through what I just call a time where they are just it's just single-minded of like strength is king. Yeah, it's because it's easy. It's just an easier mindset to have. There's less unknown.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. There is
nothing wrong with it.
A lot less bad things can happen in that mindset.
Yes.
Because you don't.
Yes, right. Yeah, from a practitioner standpoint, because then it's easy. It's like, oh, Luke, like you're grinding, bro. You're doing great, but you're just not strong enough to throw 100. And then from the athletes, from the athlete's mindset, it's like, okay, well, this is the only thing I got to work on. So let's just keep working on this, and we'll get there. And some people get lucky, and that's what they need. And some people get lucky, and they never have to hit the gym ever, and they're in the big leagues.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not like athletically like gifted or naturally. Like I'm not very naturally gifted. Like before I went to Cressy's, I was throwing like 74-mile-an-hour pull downs. I just wasn't. I was athletic, but I wasn't athletically like gifted. So I've really had to earn it. Like especially Jesse remembers when I was out there trying to learn mechanics and stuff. Like I was like crazy person. Like I'm not even the same person I was then. Like mentally, I was so far gone trying to do that because I was so like obsessed with it. Because I knew that I didn't have it. Like naturally, I wasn't gonna just obtain it. I had to know it like inside and out.
That's what true greatness is that right there. Because not many people can completely buy in and
got to be a little bit obsessed.
Trying to get better like that. You have to be.
Yeah, but you do have to like. You do end up sacrificing a lot to do that. Like I've basically sacrificed who I was to pursue this. Like now I'm a completely different person. Than like my life's completely changed. I've lost a lot of people because of what I've been doing. I have had to sacrifice a lot for it. I will be honest. It definitely comes with a price. Like if you're actually going to dive that deep into anything, like you're gonna have to give up something.
And I would argue to say that you're probably better off for it. So keep fucking working. Keep working hard, man. I
wouldn't change it. I mean, I'm not content being injured, obviously. I'm still trying to work out of this hole, but like I'm content with like the path that I've taken and I'm content with like the difficulty of it all. It's been really difficult. It's okay. As long as I'm not doing it in vain.
No, you're not. It's gonna make you a way better person for it too. So you're right where you need to be, bro.
Well, I appreciate you guys willing to work with me, and Jesse, man, for hooking me up.
We'll get you right, man. Right Richie, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate this.
Of course.
Helpful for me too.
Of course, I'm gonna hop off, but keep me in the loop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit later, Jesse.
All right.
Thanks, Richie. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. It was great to meet you, Luke. I'll talk to you soon, bro.